What is going on, everybody? Hitmonchan here back again with another Pokemon trading card game video, but this one's a little bit different than the ones you're going to be used to. Today, I'm doing a little bit of a tournament report, not just a deck tech, not just a little vlog. It's going to be me recapping my entire run at Toronto Regionals 2024. I'm going to go through the entire tournament, how I got to day 2, why I played the deck that I played and the cards that I played in it, and I also got some packs for prizing. So we're going to be able to kind of go back and forth between me just talking to you and us going through the packs and seeing what I opened from this prizing, which is going to be Surging Sparks, which I'm really excited for because I've opened none of that set yet. So without any further ado, get yourself a Hitmonchan playmat. Link is in the description and on the screen. Check out the sponsors of my videos. Their links, you know where to find them. They're all in the description. But please pick up a mat because, as you'll see, I carried that mat to victory when I was playing in the tournament. So we're just going to start. Toronto Regionals 2024. Now, I've been preparing a little bit going into this event. I was picking a deck that I thought would be not only good for the event, but honestly, one that would be easy to play. Now, you kind of hear this a lot among players that will choose something like Raging Bolt or Miraidon because it will never tie a game, and that's kind of what I was going for here too. I just wanted something that was easy to play on my brain, and we'll speak about the deck choice right now. I chose to play Iron Thorns EX, not the version with Dragapult, but Quad Thorns, 4 little thorns in my list with a bunch of disruption. Now, a lot of people hate this deck, and honestly, I do too. Like, I don't like to play against this deck, kind of similarly how I don't like to play against Stall, like Snorlax Stall. However, I picked this deck not only because it's really easy to play, but you do require a little bit of skill to maneuver properly when to use certain resources, when to ditch resources with something like Research versus when to conserve them with something like Judge, and risk disrupting yourself out of the game, which is something I'll touch on a little bit in today's video. But I also really wanted to play something with Judge. Now we're going to go right into the deck list. And why did I choose to play this specific deck list that you're going to see on screen? Well, the first thing, I really just wanted to be consistent, go with a list that worked, but I did leave myself a couple of flexible slots for teching for different decks in the meta. Now, I knew that Cloth was going to be really big going into this event. Thankfully, day 1, I didn't end up hitting any, but that doesn't mean that I didn't tech for it. My techs for Cloth were the double Lost City to Lost Vacuum. Now, Lost City is a standard in this deck, so you could very easily get rid of things like Mimikyu, get rid of things that are really important to your opponent, like cards that may be able to easily attack underneath your ability lock. So the double Lost City is really, really crucial. But the 2 Lost Vacuum I wanted to play because my mentality was I can Lost Zone the Cloths, Lost Vacuum away the booster capsules on Brute Bonnet, and then I'd kind of just be chilling the whole game. So that was the one tech. Now, specific decks, let's go through them. Round number 1, I played against Lugia V-Star, which was like my dream come true. Now, it was Rahul ready across from me at the table, and I hated to do that to a boy. Like man, I saw him sit down and I was like, he's probably playing Lugia, so I'm in the clear, but I'm not sure. And then he flips the Lugia, and I see the look on his face, and I'm sure he saw the look on my face, and you can imagine it then and there. Rahul, if you're watching this, bro, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I had to do that to you, man. I was a Thorns believer that day, and Rahul pretty much scooped to me within like 20-ish minutes of us playing. But you know, cool guy, happy to beat him. Now, the second match I played was up against Raging Bolt Ogerpon, and overall, I feel like this matchup is really 50-50. Like, if your opponent doesn't have the strongest opening hand, you're almost like guaranteed to win, it feels like, because if you can get him with a Judge, then you can hammer away their key energies that they're keeping on the board for a specific reason, like the lightning energies or fighting energies on a Raging Bolt, and you can Lost City the Slitherwing with like relative ease combined with like disruption. You should be able to win the matchup pretty easily, and that's kind of what happened during this one. Just Disrupt did my thing. I didn't get Slitherwinged at all. I think my opponent could not find it. So that was pretty easy. Now, the third matchup that I had was the Charizard EX with the Cologne. And Charizard is a mostly free matchup, but if they play the Cologne, it gets really difficult because they can just Cologne, very handy Zard, pile 3 energies on a Charizard, and then if you prize the TM Devo, or if you're not able to get a good hit onto Zard, and they can like KO Thorns, and it gets really complicated if they're able to bring a Charizard up into the active with like a lot of energies in one go. Things can get really difficult. Thankfully, I was able to go 2-0, I believe. Basically, just a lot of disruption was necessary. Eri was clutch in a specific moment where I could have gotten like counter catchered, would have been really devastating to my board at the time, but I was able to just Eri away that card, which kind of just won me the game in a couple turns from that point. So that was really, really clutch. Eri came through on that one. Now round 4, I went up against an Ancient Box, and Ancient Box, bad matchup. I'd say probably this deck's worst matchup right now, especially with the addition of the new Koraidon that can literally just one-shot a Thorns. Very early in the game, if your opponent swings and then they like Iron Bundle and bring up a fresh Thorns and then they swing with Koraidon, things can get really, really tricky. I did lose 2 games in a row in this matchup. Kind of expected, nothing super noteworthy. But my opponent, and honestly all my opponents up until this point, have been really chill. I got 2-0'd pretty quickly by the Ancient Box, and all of my games, for the most part, like I'd say out of the 13 rounds I played, 12 of those rounds maybe ended within like half an hour at most, which is really like not surprising, but the games were very decisive. Next up, I played against another Raging Bolt, and this one did not go as well for me. Like, my opponent was able to just very easily get like Slitherwing, boom, 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 KO, an Iron Thorns, and then I had like a kind of bricky start both of the games, and I think the second game I just got like straight up docked. Like, I just could not do anything. But yeah, really, really tough go that time around. Not super noteworthy. Opponent was really, really chill. But yeah, I was really like scared at this point, because keep in mind at this point, I went from 3-0 to 3-2, and I'm thinking like, okay, now I need to get 3 wins and a tie to move forward. I needed to get 6-1 to make it to day 2, and I can't mess up. And now at this point, my next opponent is a Roaring Moon EX. I want to say free matchup, because if you can judge them and they aren't able to turbo through the deck with like Greninja and Squawk ability, the deck really does fall apart. You don't have Dark Patch access as easily. You're literally just relying on the 4 Sadas to do the work. You gotta get your moons out, and it's a really tough matchup in the same way, except like in the same way Bolt is, except they don't have Slitherwing that's able to come through and like destroy an Iron Thorns in one hit very easily. So that matchup's definitely easier, and I 2-0'd my opponent. Really, really nice guy. Had a lot of fun playing against them and chatting with them. But yeah, Eri really came in clutch in that one too. I remember a specific moment where my opponent had a low hand size, and I played the Eri and got rid of a Dark Patch and an Energy Switch, which was really clutch. The Energy Switch especially, because then a Sada E-Switch attach could literally just power up a moon in one go, and that can be very, very dangerous. So thankfully I was able to pull off that win, and then going into the next round, played against another Charizard. Now, this Charizard did not have Canceling Cologne, so I pretty quickly maneuvered my way around and wiped the floor just a little bit. Really, really awesome opponent though. He was pretty chill, but it was literally like how you would expect an Iron Thorns versus Charizard matchup to go. It was not super great for my opponent. That was a pretty swift win. And then my next match, I would say, is my most interesting match from the entire weekend. Sit down at my table. My opponent does not have a playmat. No playmat at the table. Should have got that Hitmonchanting one though. You know what I mean? Like, check out hitmonchanting.com and you can get that playmat. My opponent doesn't have a playmat. Very, very chill guy. And we're chatting, we're having a fun time. My opponent's playing Archaladon Dialga V-Star. Now I'm thinking to myself, this should be a pretty free matchup, because obviously the whole deck relies on Archaladon's ability in order to power up Pokemon and just swing for that like big damage that really hits hard on the big basics. But because my opponent won't be able to power themselves up, we'll be fine. Now, I was unsure if they played a Canceling Cologne, because a lot of lists don't, but I was seeing a fair amount that did. So I was like 50-50. I'm like, okay, this is my game plan. Game 1, I'm going to go into it not expecting the Cologne. So I was playing the game, and then wouldn't you know it, boom, Cologne comes through. They're able to power up their Archaludon. And from there, I was like, okay, they got the Cologne, and they were just able to kind of run through, like, they were just hitting that research off of every judge, crazy Pokestops. Like, they were drawing really, really hot, playing really, really well. And the Cologne came through at, like, the really crucial time, and it caught me off guard, because I really didn't expect it. I had not seen it the most of the game, and I didn't expect it towards the end game, and then I got caught. That's fine. That was the game 1. And now I'm worried. I'm like, okay, this is an Archaludon that plays a Cologne. I'm screwed. Like, there's no way that we're winning this game. There's no shot. So I'm like, damn, I was really hoping to make day 2 at this event. Like, and I'm gonna end on Archaludon with Cologne? Like, bro, there's no way. So we're playing the second game, and my opponent makes a play where they power up Dialga V-Star, but they can use Star Chronos, but instead what they decide to do is they decide to retreat the Dialga. And by retreating the Dialga,
my camera died at this point in the video, and I just realized when I'm editing. But basically, at that point in the game, my opponent retreated Dialga, and from there, they were never able to reestablish Star Chronos. The Dialga had some damage on it already, which I think is why they did it. And yeah, then I was able to sweep that game from there. Now, game 3 rolls around, and I'm actually like, okay, I can potentially win this matchup. I know how to play it now, and I think I can do it. We start playing the game. One Cologne comes by, but they only power up a single Archaludon, and I'm like, okay, they have no Dialga that's getting established. They're just powering up the one Archaludon, and because they're doing that, as soon as I KO this, I should be home free. They play a second Cologne, maybe 2 turns later. I'm like, yo, okay, all right. No way did this man just obviously play 1 Cologne in Archaludon, but he plays 2 Cologne, and he hid the second Cologne the entire first 2 matches. And I'm like, okay, I'm really scared now, because the double Cologne play really put me in a bad spot. But luckily for me, time was just called, and I was able to bench another Iron Thorns. So he already took 2, I already took 2, and basically I put 3 Thorns down that I would just be able to retreat in between all of them, so like he could never basically take his remaining prizes. There was like no way he could power up the Dialga, Star Chronos, and do that. So from there, we just called it a tie. We were that put us both to 5-1. So we needed to both win our next game. And yeah, so that was the end of that game. Really interesting. I didn't expect the Archaludon Dialga with 2 Colognes. 2 Colognes is crazy.
Costume change. We're back again. I need to record this video at 2 different times on different days. Round 9. Hydreigon EX. Now, at this point in the tournament, I am really nervous because I'm thinking I need to win this match. I can't do anything else. If I want to make day 2, it's got to be a win, or else there's no point to any of this. So when my opponent flips over a Dino, I actually have a sigh of relief. Now, Hydreigon can be a little bit difficult to come up against. It played kinds of cards like Misfortune Sisters and some other Control-y-esque cards you would tend to find in a Hydreigon list. So I knew that this list wasn't going to be built on as much consistency. I do remember it also played a Roseanne's backup. So I was able to pretty decisively take this game. I almost put myself into a position where Pekkaron could sweep me, but we're not going to talk about that. We were able to navigate our way out of that one, and I was able to win pretty decisively that time. And boom, there you go. My first day 2 has been achieved. I am at 6-1. I'm able to go on to day 2 of competition, and I was so excited. I mean, through me making videos for you guys, just naturally practicing the game more and more, and getting more involved in the meta, I've found that I've been able to kind of succeed in playing the game a little bit more. I'm not just a guy on YouTube who makes silly decks. I can actually play the Pokemon trading card game, which is crazy. So stoked to make it to day 2. First game of day 2, my opponent flips over a Cloth. Now, my opponent ended up making it, I think, to top 16 with Cloth to Rapagos. And this is where things kind of started to get a little bit more shaky for the list. Up until now, my major losses had been to a bad matchup, and an Ancient Fox, and then just a deck drawn real hot in the Raging Bolt Ogre Pond that I lost to. Unfortunately for me, the cloth was drawn hot and I was not. Game 1 was pretty close. We had a nice little back and forth going. I think I put him down to a very low hand, and if he wasn't able to get out of it, then I would have won in I think 2 turns. I was a little bit behind, but I was bringing it back kind of, and then he just put the final nail in the coffin there. And then the second game, I just judged myself into a brick, and then I think my opponent got research or something like that, and then it kind of just went from there. Yeah, I remember judging myself, and I just got 4 cards that were not playable at all. Moving on forward from that, my next round was against a Regidrago V-Star. Now, this is the only Regidrago I played against throughout the entire tournament. I did not play against another Regidrago, which was crazy, because Regidrago is Regidrago. And I ended up losing both games again to that Regidrago. And this I felt my play was good. I just did not have the draws I needed. Throughout game 1, I drew pass for a little bit, couldn't get a Turbo Energize off, and it was a really slow start, and then my opponent was just able to steamroll me by the time I actually was able to get my feet off the ground. And then game number 2, I did not see a Crushing Hammer the whole game after researching twice. Did not see a single Crushing Hammer, couldn't keep up with the Drago, and it was a bit better, but at the end of the day, I judged myself, bricked hand, couldn't do anything for 2 turns, and that was it. It was over. They just had enough on board in order to take the set. So I was a little worried at this point because I'm my goal was obviously to make it to day 2, but now that I'm in day 2, I kind of want to win a few games. That'd be nice. And my next opponent was a Raging Bolt Ogre Pond player, and actually someone who recognized me from the channel, I think. So that was really nice. Very nice to meet you. And just a note, I met a couple of people who watched the channel. You'll know who you are for watching this video. I want to say thank you all for chatting with me, for saying hi. It really meant a lot, and I was really happy to talk to everybody. So thank you for coming to say hi. And yeah, I got paired up against one of y'all in my round 12. Was it round 12? Yes, round 12. It was a pretty rough match for my opponent. I was just drawing really nicely. The disruption was working. The first game, they were able to start to establish something, but it was too little too late. The second game, my opponent just had nothing, and I think I donked the squawk or something like that was how our second game ended. So that was a real tough way to go out, for sure. At the end there of that set, it's regional, so you don't mind it, but you kind of want all your games to be fun, and just to get a donk like that is kind of whatever. But that was that. Really nice opponent, really chill dude, and that moves me on to round 13, the last and final round of my tournament. At this point, I knew I was not going to make cut whatsoever. I was shooting for top 128, but because I lost my first 2 matches of day 2, and I'm winning the second ones, I had a feeling I was not going to quite get enough to make it into the top 128, because that would have been, I think, a full booster box or 24 packs or something like that. So it would have been a real substantial difference in prizing. But my last and final round was a Lugia V-Star. Pretty much unlosable for this deck. And to my surprise, my opponent, he was, really, really nice dude. It's always sad when your opponent is playing Lugia. I still feel bad for I feel bad for them because I don't want to be that Thorns player, which is I just am ending your run right here, right now. But my opponent was actually teched out for Thorns. They had the double jamming tower, which isn't really a tech for Thorns, it's more tech for Guardy, but it's still really good into Thorns because you just force me to consistently find outs to the stadium if I want to keep retreating and swinging. And they played the Fluttermane, the real Thorns tech. So those two combined proved to be a little bit of a challenge, but during game 1, they got the Fluttermane down, but they were 1 card short to bring up the Fluttermane and then use Archeops. They didn't have the second Archeops in the discard pile, I don't think, at that point. And then they put the Fluttermane down, or else I think they were going to lose, and I was able to just go boss Lost City, get rid of that Fluttermane, and from there, it was pretty much just GG's. Game 2, they bricked pretty hard, as Lugia does when you can't find any supporters with Luminion and you can't use a Summoning Star. and it was a real close, not real close game, but it was a really like slow kind of just deal damage here and there. I took my first few turns pretty slow. I think I didn't actually start swinging into like turn 3, but I was never really under any pressure. The Fluttermane did hit the board at one point, but then I just lost zoned it again, and that was all she wrote. And that was my event. Great regional, best regional experience I've had by far. Shout out to all my opponents. Shout out to everyone that came to say hi throughout the event. Shout out to the event organizers. This was an impeccably run event. I was so happy, no issues. It was great. Lots of space, lots of room, lots of fun, lots of Pokemon, everything you want in a Pokemon regional. I'm just gonna say once again, thank you so much for watching. You watching my videos is what enables me to just have fun playing the Pokemon trading card game, share my experiences with you, and hopefully my next goal is gonna be let's hit the top 128, but let's also hit the top 64. That's gonna be my next regional goal. Not sure what I'm gonna attend the rest of this year. Probably not Vancouver, potentially NAIC if money lines up. We're not really sure what's gonna happen there. But as always, thank you all for chatting with me. Get yourself a Hitmonchanting. Get a Hitmonchanting mat. Get the mat, my guy. Get the Hitmonchanting mat. Subscribe to the channel. Posting multiple Pokemon trading card game videos every single week. I've got some really spicy deck techs coming up in the next couple of days. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that jazz. Turn on the bell, and until next time, Hitmonchanting is out.